I borrowed my husband's BMW for one day. Just one day. And the parking attendant looked at me confused and said, "Didn't you just leave? Your husband's wife was here 20 minutes ago." I am his wife. So who was the other woman? That one moment, that one sentence, unraveled 8 years of marriage and exposed a lie so big it had its own address, its own bank account, its own life. If you've ever had that gut feeling that something was wrong, if you've ever ignored the signs because you wanted to believe in love, this story is for you. Stay until the end, because what I discovered will shock you. And what I did about it might inspire you. My name is Amanda, and this is the day my life changed forever. Welcome to Reality Stories Hub. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Let me paint you a picture of my life 8 years ago. I was 26, standing in a white dress, saying, "I do" to a man named Carter. He was 29, charming, successful, everything I thought I wanted. We were so in love it felt like those romance movies, you know? The kind where you can't imagine your life without the other person. I worked hard to build my career. Really hard. I'm a senior project manager at a construction company here in Birmingham. Not an easy field for a woman, especially a black woman, but I pushed through. Earned my place. Earned respect. Carter, he worked in commercial real estate, buying and selling properties, making deals. He did well. We both did. We bought a beautiful house in Edgbaston, one of those nice areas with the big trees and the quiet streets. We had 2 cars, took holidays to Spain and Portugal, had dinner parties with friends. From the outside, we looked perfect. The successful couple. The ones who had it all figured out. Carter handled all our finances. All of it. He said it made sense since he worked in real estate and understood investments and money management. And I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband. When you love someone that deeply, when you've built a life with them, you don't question every little thing. You trust. You believe. And that trust, that blind, beautiful trust, that's exactly what he used against me. It was a Wednesday morning in April when my world started cracking. My car, a little Honda, had been making this horrible noise every time I braked. I'd been putting off getting it fixed because I was so busy with work. But finally, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I dropped it at the garage on my way to the office. The mechanic looked at it and shook his head. "This is going to take at least 2 days, love. Maybe 3. We need to order parts." I called Carter, frustrated. I had site visits scheduled, meetings with contractors, a packed day ahead of me. "Just take the BMW," he said immediately. No hesitation. "I'm working from the flat today anyway. Got paperwork to catch up on. You need it more than me." The flat. He'd rented a small office flat in the city center about a year ago. Said it was easier than working from home, fewer distractions, a proper workspace. I'd only been there once, briefly, when he first got the keys. It was basic. A desk, a chair, some filing cabinets. Nothing special. I felt grateful that morning. Carter loved that BMW. It was black, sleek, immaculate. He washed it every Sunday morning without fail. Detailed the interior every month. That car was his pride and joy. So when he offered it without me even asking, I thought, that's my husband. That's the man I married. Thoughtful. Generous. Kind. I kissed him goodbye, grabbed his keys from the bowl by the door, and headed out. The BMW drove like a dream. Smooth. Powerful. Comfortable. I handled my morning meetings, checked on a construction site, made some calls. By lunchtime, I decided to squeeze in a quick gym session. There's this gym in the city center, not far from Carter's office flat. He'd been a member there for about 3 years. Always talked about how good the facilities were, how friendly the staff was. I pulled into the car park around 1 o'clock. That's when I saw him. The parking attendant. Older man, maybe early 60s, always wore a high-vis vest and had this friendly face. I'd seen him dozens of times before when I'd met Carter there or dropped something off for him. He knew us. He always smiled and waved. But this time, when I pulled up in the BMW, his face changed. He looked confused, then concerned. He walked toward my car with this expression I couldn't read. I rolled down my window, expecting him to say his usual cheerful hello. Instead, he said, "Oh, you're back already? Thought you forgot something. Your husband's wife just left about 20 minutes ago." For a second, my brain couldn't process it. I thought maybe he was confused. Maybe he was thinking of someone else. Maybe I misheard him. But then his words sank in. Really sank in. "Your husband's wife. Just left. 20 minutes ago." "I'm sorry. I said, and my voice sounded strange. Distant. What did you just say? The attendant looked uncomfortable now. He shifted his weight, scratched his head. I just met the lady who drives this car. She was here earlier. I thought you were coming back. My hands gripped the steering wheel. My heart started pounding. Sir, I said slowly, carefully. I need you to understand something. I am his wife. I am Carter's wife. So I need you to tell me exactly who you're talking about. I watched the color drain from his face. I watched him realize what he'd just revealed. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened and closed. Oh God, he whispered. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I thought, she comes here all the time. Drives this exact car. Always parks in the same bay. I just assumed. My stomach dropped. My chest felt tight. Everything around me seemed to blur. Describe her, I said. My voice wasn't mine anymore. It was cold. Flat. Empty. He didn't want to tell me. I could see it in his eyes. But he also knew he'd already opened this door, and there was no closing it. She's younger, he said quietly. Maybe late 20s. Slim. Long dark hair, usually in a ponytail. Light skin. She's always friendly. Says hello. I've seen her here for months now. Months. That word hit me like a punch to the chest. What days? I asked. Miss, I really don't think. What days? He swallowed hard. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Usually around this time. Like clockwork. I thanked him. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. Then I rolled up my window and just sat there. People walked past. Cars came and went. The world kept moving. But mine had just stopped. I didn't go into the gym. I couldn't. My legs felt like they wouldn't hold me if I tried to stand. Instead, I sat in that car park and started really looking at the car I was sitting in. The car my husband supposedly loved so much. I opened the glove box. Registration documents, insurance papers, a phone charger. Nothing unusual. Then I opened the center console. Receipts. Lots of them. I started going through them one by one. A restaurant I'd never heard of. A coffee shop in a part of town I never went to. Cinema tickets from 3 weeks ago. On a night when Carter told me he was meeting a client for dinner. My hands were shaking as I reached under the passenger seat. My fingers found something soft. I pulled it out. A hair tie. One of those velvet scrunchies. It was dark blue. I've never owned a blue scrunchie in my life. I keep my hair in braids most of the time, and when I do tie it up, I use black bands. Always. That's when I smelled it. Perfume. Not my perfume. I wear something warm and spicy. This was sweet. Floral. Young. It was in the fabric of the seats. In the air. Everywhere. I felt sick. Physically sick. But I didn't cry. Not yet. Something else took over. Something cold and clear and focused. I needed to know everything. I started the car and drove. Not back to work. Not home. I just drove and thought. How long had this been going on? The attendant said months. How many months? 6. 8. A year. How many times had Carter looked me in the eyes and lied? How many working from the flat days were actually spent with her? How many times had I noticed him being distant and blamed it on work stress? I thought about the nights he came home smelling like shower gel. The times his phone was face down on the table. The way he'd started dressing better, wearing cologne on random weekdays. All the signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. But I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. I needed proof. I needed to understand everything before I made a move. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I called my office, said I was feeling ill, and I went back to that gym. I parked across the street where I had a clear view of the entrance. And I waited. 2.5 hours. I sat there watching people come and go. Joggers. Students. Office workers on their lunch breaks. Then I saw it. A black BMW. The exact same model. Same color. Same everything. It pulled into the car park, right into the same bay the attendant had mentioned. And out stepped a woman who matched his description perfectly. Young, pretty, athletic build, long dark hair and a ponytail. She wore expensive-looking gym clothes, the matching kind that cost a fortune. Designer trainers. She grabbed her gym bag from the back seat like she owned the place, like this was completely normal. Because to her, it probably was. She probably had no idea about me. She probably thought she was his girlfriend. Maybe even believed they had a future together. I watched her walk inside and I sat there shaking. Not from fear. From rage. Pure, burning rage. This woman was living half my life, and didn't even know it. When she came out an hour later, I followed her. Kept my distance, but stayed close enough not to lose her. She drove to a neighborhood called Jeweler Quarter. Nice area. New apartment buildings. The kind of place young professionals with money lived. She pulled into a visitor's car park, grabbed her bag, and walked into one of the buildings like she lived there. I wrote down the address. Then I sat there thinking, planning, because this wasn't just about catching Carter anymore. This was about protecting myself. This was about making sure when everything fell apart, and it was going to fall apart, I wasn't left with nothing. I went home that evening before Carter got suspicious. Walked through our front door into our beautiful house with our nice furniture and our wedding photos on the walls. And I felt like I was walking through a museum. Everything looked the same, but nothing was real anymore. Carter came home around 7, kissed my cheek, asked about my day, complained about a difficult property deal. I made dinner. We ate together. We watched television. I laughed at his jokes. I played the role of loving wife while my mind was racing. Over the next 10 days, I became someone I didn't recognize. I went through Carter's home office when he was in the shower. Found a second phone in his desk drawer, tucked behind some files. I'd never seen it before. Couldn't unlock it, but its existence told me everything. I checked our bank statements. Really checked them this time. Found patterns I'd been too trusting to notice before. Cash withdrawals every week. Charges to restaurants on nights he said he was working. A recurring payment to something called Urban Living Property Management. That payment led me down a rabbit hole that made everything so much worse. I called the property management company. Pretended I was calling about renewing a lease. They told me the property was a 2-bedroom apartment in Jeweler Quarter. The same building I'd followed her to. The lease was in Carter's name. He'd been paying £1,200 a month for nearly 18 months. 18 months. A year and a half. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't a mistake. This was a whole separate life. I found receipts for jewelry I'd never received. Found credit card statements showing weekend trips to Bath, to the Cotswolds. He'd taken her away for Valentine's Day while telling me he had a big property viewing. He'd been stealing from our future. From our joint accounts. From the life we were supposed to be building together. I met with a solicitor during my lunch break. Explained everything. She took notes and told me exactly what to do. Document everything. Don't let him know I knew. Protect myself. Prepare for battle. I gave myself 2 weeks. 2 weeks to gather every piece of evidence I could find. Those 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. Every morning I woke up next to a stranger. Every night I fell asleep next to a liar. But I kept my face neutral. Kept playing the role. Because I needed to be smart about this. I went back to that gym and talked to the parking attendant again. Got him to write down everything he'd told me, sign it, date it. He felt terrible, kept apologizing over and over. You did me a favor, I told him. A painful one, but a favor. I took photos. Lots of them. The other BMW parked at the gym. Her walking into the apartment building. I even waited one evening and got a photo of Carter going into that same building, flowers in his hand. I printed out every bank statement, every receipt, every credit card charge. Made copies of everything. Gave one set to my solicitor. Kept one set hidden at my office. I called our joint credit card company and got detailed records of every transaction for the past 2 years. I created a spreadsheet. Dates, amounts, locations. The pattern was clear as day once you knew what to look for. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, there were charges near that apartment. Coffee shops. Restaurants. The gym. On weekends, there were charges in romantic locations. Hotels. Spa treatments. Expensive dinners. All the things he used to do with me, he was doing with her. Except more. Better. More expensive. I contacted our mortgage lender. Made sure my name was properly on all the documents. Called our insurance companies. Made sure I was listed as a beneficiary on everything I should be. I opened my own bank account. Started diverting my salary there instead of into our joint account. I wasn't going to be caught with no money when this exploded. And through it all, I came home every evening and pretended everything was fine. Carter had no idea. He went about his life thinking he was so clever, thinking he'd managed to build this secret world and keep it hidden. He'd kiss me goodbye in the morning, spend his day with her, then come home to me at night. The audacity of it was almost impressive. On the 14th day, I was ready. I had everything I needed. Every piece of evidence. Every receipt. Every photo. Every statement. I had witness testimony. I had proof of the apartment. I had a timeline that showed this had been going on for a year and a half. I made a decision. I was going to confront him, but I was going to do it my way. That Friday evening, I cooked his favorite meal. Proper roast dinner with all the trimmings. Yorkshire puddings, roast potatoes, the works. Opened a nice bottle of red wine. Set the table with our good plates. When Carter walked in, he looked surprised and pleased. "What's the occasion?" he asked, kissing my cheek. "Just felt like doing something nice," I said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. We ate. We talked. He told me about his day, about a property deal he was working on. Completely relaxed. Completely oblivious. When dinner was finished, when he was comfortable and full and probably thinking about what to watch on TV, I reached under my chair. I pulled out a folder, a thick one, and I placed it on the table between us. "How was the gym today?" I asked casually. He looked confused. "Didn't go today. Been in viewings all afternoon." "Why?" I opened the folder. Slid the first photo across the table. It showed his BMW parked at the gym. Time-stamped from that very afternoon. His face changed. I watched the color drain from his skin. Watched his eyes go wide. Watched his mouth open but no words come out. "Amanda," he started. I slid another photo. This one showed a woman getting out of his car. Then another. Her entering the apartment building. Then bank statements. Then receipts. Then a copy of his lease agreement for the apartment. "Don't," I said quietly. "Don't insult me with more lies." He tried anyway. They always do. He said it wasn't what it looked like. That he could explain. That it was complicated. That he never meant to hurt me. When those didn't work, he tried a different approach. He said things had gotten boring between us. That she made him feel young. That it just happened and he didn't know how to stop it. I listened to all of it. Every word. Every excuse. Every justification. And when he was done, when he'd run out of things to say, I spoke. "You have 24 hours to tell her the truth. That you're married. That you have a wife. That she's been the other woman for 18 months. If you don't tell her, I will." "Amanda, please. I've already filed for divorce. Papers will be served on Monday. I want you out of this house by Sunday night." His face went white. "You can't be serious." "I have copies of everything, Carter. Every receipt. Every bank statement. Every lie. My solicitor has them. My sister has them. They're in a safe deposit box at the bank. So don't even think about hiding money or playing games." I stood up from the table, leaving him sitting there in shock. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, the one we'd shared for 8 years. I closed the door. Locked it. And then finally I cried. I cried for the marriage I thought I had. I cried for the years I'd wasted. I cried for the trust that had been shattered into a million pieces. But by morning, I was done crying. By morning, I was ready to fight. The divorce took 7 months. 7 long months of solicitors and mediation sessions and arguments over who got what. Carter tried everything. He tried to say I was overreacting. He tried to say it was just a mistake. He even tried to blame me, said I was always too focused on work, that I'd neglected our marriage. Can you believe that? He cheated, he lied, he stole from our joint accounts, and somehow it was my fault. But I had evidence. Mountains of it. And my solicitor was brilliant. We found out more as the process went on. The apartment wasn't cheap. He'd been spending nearly £1,500 a month on it when you included utilities and council tax. Plus, he'd been buying her gifts. Expensive ones. Jewelry, designer handbags, weekend trips away. In total, he'd spent over £40,000 of our money on his affair. £40,000. Money that should have been going toward our future, our savings, maybe a bigger house or a family one day. Instead, it went to fund his fantasy life. I found out her name was Amy, 28 years old, worked in marketing. And here's the thing that broke my heart for her. She had no idea he was married. Carter had told her he was divorced. Said it had been finalized 3 years ago. Told her he lived alone in our house. That it had been his from his previous marriage, but his ex-wife didn't want it. He built an entire story. An entire false life. And Amy believed it because why wouldn't she? When you meet someone, you don't expect them to be lying about something that fundamental. My solicitor tracked her down. Sent her copies of our marriage certificate, photos of Carter and me at our wedding. Evidence that we'd been living together the whole time he was seeing her. Amy was devastated. She actually called me, crying and apologizing. Said she never would have gone near him if she'd known. Said she felt sick, used, disgusted. I felt sorry for her. I really did. She was a victim in this too. Just a different kind. She ended it immediately. Blocked his number. Kicked him out of the apartment. Told him she never wanted to see him again. So Carter lost both of us. Lost his marriage. Lost his girlfriend. And he was about to lose a lot more. The house was in both our names, but I'd put down most of the deposit from money my grandmother had left me. My solicitor argued that I was entitled to a larger share. The judge agreed. I got the house. 65% of our savings. Half his pension. And because he'd been using our joint money to fund an affair, the judge wasn't sympathetic to him. At all. Carter had to sell some of his property investments to pay me what I was owed. He wasn't happy about it. But that wasn't my problem anymore. My friends and family were incredible through all of this. My sister let me cry on her shoulder more times than I can count. My mom kept me fed and made sure I was looking after myself. My colleagues at work covered for me when I needed time off for solicitor meetings. And slowly, day by day, I started to heal. It wasn't linear. Some days I felt strong and angry and ready to move on. Other days I felt broken and sad and couldn't understand how someone I'd loved so much could do this to me. But I kept going. Because what choice did I have? I threw myself into work. Got promoted to senior project manager. Started taking on bigger projects. Made more money. Proved to myself that I was capable and strong and didn't need anyone to validate me. I redecorated the house. Got rid of everything that reminded me of Carter. New paint. New furniture. Made it mine. Really mine. I started going to therapy. Talked through the betrayal, the trust issues, the anger. Learned that Carter's choices were about him, not about me. That I wasn't too boring or too focused on work or any of the things he'd tried to blame me for. I was enough. I'd always been enough. He was just a liar who wanted to have everything without paying the price. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was at a work event. One of those networking things with consultants and contractors and suppliers. I was talking to a quantity surveyor about a project when someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and saw the parking attendant from the gym. He was in regular clothes, not his uniform, holding a glass of orange juice and looking slightly nervous. I wasn't sure if you'd remember me, he said. Of course I remember you, I said. You changed my life. I felt terrible about that day, he admitted. Wondered if I should have said something or kept quiet. I shook my head. Don't feel terrible. You told me the truth when no one else would. You did me the biggest favor anyone's ever done me. His face relaxed. How are you doing? I'm good, I said. And I meant it. Really good. The divorce is finalized. I got the house. I got myself back. Good for you, he said with a genuine smile. You deserve good things. We talked for a while. Turns out his grandson works for one of the contractors I use regularly. Small world. As I was leaving that night, walking to my car, my new car, a gorgeous red Audi I'd bought for myself with my promotion bonus, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't broken. I was free. It's been 2 years now since that day in the car park. 2 years since the parking attendant said those words that changed everything. And I want to tell you what I've learned, because if you're going through something similar, if you're in that dark place where you don't know what's real anymore, I need you to hear this. First, trust your gut. Always. If something feels wrong, it probably is. I ignored so many signs because I wanted to believe my marriage was solid. I wanted to believe Carter loved me. I made excuses for behavior that should have set off alarm bells. The distant behavior. The phone always face down. The new cologne. The working late. The showers as soon as he got home. All of it. I knew deep down I knew something was wrong. But I didn't want to face it. If I could go back, I'd tell myself to trust that feeling. To ask questions. To look closer. Second, never, ever give someone else complete control of your finances. I don't care how much you love them or trust them. You need to know what's coming in and what's going out. You need access to all accounts. You need to see statements. Carter was able to spend £40,000 of our money because I trusted him completely with our finances. I didn't look at statements. I didn't question charges. I just assumed he was handling it. Never again. I will never put myself in that position again. Third, evidence is everything. If I'd confronted Carter that first day without proof, he would have talked his way out of it. He would have made me feel crazy. Would have said I was paranoid or jealous or imagining things. But I couldn't argue with photos. With bank statements. With signed witness testimony. with a lease agreement in his name. When you have evidence, you have power. You have truth. And truth is the only weapon you need. Fourth, protect yourself before you confront them. I'm so glad I talked to a solicitor first. So glad I secured my own finances, made copies of everything, made sure I knew my rights. Because the moment you confront a cheater, the war begins. And you need to be prepared for battle. Fifth, and this is important, their cheating is not about you. It's not because you weren't pretty enough or fun enough or interesting enough. It's about them, about their choices, about their character. Carter didn't cheat because I was boring. He cheated because he wanted to, because he was selfish, because he thought he could get away with it. That's on him, not me. And finally, the most important lesson. You are stronger than you think you are. When I first found out, I thought I'd die. I thought the pain would kill me. I couldn't imagine a future without Carter. Couldn't imagine rebuilding my life alone. But I did it. Day by day. Choice by choice. I survived. And not just survived, I thrived. I'm happier now than I was in my marriage. I make my own decisions. I answer to no. 1. I spend my money how I want. I decorate my house how I like. I live my life on my terms. And that BMW? I sold it. Donated the money to a women's refuge charity. Then I bought myself that red Audi. Fast, beautiful, and completely mine. No one else has ever driven it. No one else ever will. I drive that car and I remember who I am. Not Carter's wife. Not the woman who was cheated on. Just Amanda. Strong. Independent. Whole. Sometimes people ask me if I'll ever get married again. If I'll ever trust someone enough to build a life with them. And honestly, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But if I do, it'll be different. I'll be different. I'll never make myself small for someone else. I'll never ignore red flags. I'll never hand over control of my finances. I'll never lose myself in trying to be what someone else needs. I'll be a partner, not a doormat. And if someone can't handle that, they're not the person for me. That parking attendant, by the way, his name is George. We're friends now. He comes to my house for Sunday dinner once a month. Brings his wife. We laugh about how he accidentally exposed my entire marriage as a lie. Best worst day of both our lives, he jokes. And he's right. It was awful. Devastating. The worst day imaginable. But it was also the day I started taking my life back. So if you're watching this and you're in a situation where something feels wrong, where your gut is screaming at you, but you're afraid to look closer, let me tell you something. Look closer. Ask questions. Trust yourself. Yes, the truth might hurt. Yes, it might turn your world upside down. Yes, you might lose things you thought were permanent. But you'll gain something more important. You'll gain yourself back. And that is worth everything. I'm Amanda. I borrowed my husband's car for one day and discovered he'd been living a double life for 18 months. I lost my marriage. But I found my strength. And I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. If this story resonated with you, if you've been through something similar or you know someone who has, leave a comment below. Share your story. Let's support each other. And remember, you are not what happened to you. You are not defined by someone else's betrayal. You are strong, you are valuable, and you are worthy of real love. The kind of love that doesn't hide in secret apartments and lie to your face. The kind of love that sees you and chooses you every single day. That love exists. And you deserve it. Thank you for listening to my story. I'll see you in the next one.